Now let's do a little bit of meditation to get our minds into a good state and have a positive motivation for what we are going to be doing in the next few hours. So let your body settle down and be comfortable and relaxed. Let your breath flow in and out in a natural way. And let your mind settle down. Put aside any thoughts there may be in your mind from things that you were doing earlier today. Or thoughts about what you're going to do later or tomorrow or any time in the future. And just let your mind be right here in the present moment and the present place, wherever you are. So, the first teaching that Buddha gave after he became enlightened, he taught the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is true suffering or dukkha. Dukkha means unsatisfactoriness, unwanted experiences that we have. And he gave different examples of these. He said, birth is suffering, sickness is suffering, aging is suffering, and death is suffering. So those four things are also called four powerful rivers. We are helplessly carried along through life on those four powerful rivers without any choice, without any control. We have to go through those experiences, especially sickness, aging, and death. This is just part of our existence in samsara, the cyclic existence. And the Buddha gave some other examples of suffering, like not getting what we want. Think of an example of that, something you wanted very much in your life, but you weren't able to get. Another example is getting what we don't want. So we have lots of experiences like that, things that we don't want to have happen to us, they do happen to us. Getting injured, losing a partner, a relationship, so painful things that we wish didn't happen, and yet they do happen. Another example he gave was losing what we cherish and don't want to lose. So this can include people. That's probably the most painful experience of loss. Someone we love and we want them to be there always, forever, but they may leave us, go far away, or die, and then they're no longer there. But it's also painful to lose material things, possessions that we like very much and want to hang on to, but sometimes we can't. They're lost or broken, stolen, or we can no longer afford them, have to give them up. And finally, the Buddha said just having these aggregates, meaning our body and mind, this body and mind that we have, which came about as a result of karma and afflictions in our past lives, just having this body is suffering. Because with this body, we encounter all kinds of problems, even on a daily basis: hunger, thirst, heat, cold, pain, discomfort, and then all the mental sufferings, unwanted thoughts and feelings that arise in our mind without choice or control. And some of you might think this is very depressing. I don't want to think about all these problems. But the Buddha said it's important that we recognize and acknowledge the problems in our life, in our world, so that we then generate the wish to be free from them, to emerge from samsara and attain the state of liberation, nirvana, enlightenment. If we don't have the wish to be free of samsara, there's no way we'll be able to attain those higher states. And we can attain them. It is possible, it is doable. And we're very fortunate right now. We have a human life, we have all the things we need to stay alive: food, clothes, shelter, medicine. Friends who care about us are there to help us when we need help. And best of all, we have the chance to learn the Dharma, the Buddhist teachings that show us how we can free ourselves from suffering, and best of all, how we can attain the state of enlightenment or Buddhahood, just like the Buddha did, so that we can help all other beings be free of suffering as well. So see if you can make that your motivation for participating in this session today, tonight. Feel the wish to help all living beings and become enlightened. That's the best way we can help all living beings. And through these sessions, these teachings, may this help us get closer to enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings. Okay, so you can relax and open your eyes. So, yesterday, before we finished, we were talking about samsara, which is also called cyclic existence. And according to Buddhism, samsara is a very painful, unfortunate, unsatisfying situation that we are in as long as we are not yet enlightened or haven't reached nirvana. And so, according to Buddhism, we need to free ourselves from samsara. That's the goal of Buddhism, the goal of Buddha's teachings. And in the Mahayana tradition, which is what we follow in the Tibetan tradition, the goal is even more than that. It is to become a Buddha, fully enlightened, so that we can help all other living beings become free of samsara and become enlightened too. So for some of you, these ideas may be new and unfamiliar. You're not used to thinking this way, and you might find difficult to accept these ideas. You may have a lot of doubts and questions, and this is normal. And in fact, the Buddha said that we shouldn't just believe his words, but we should investigate them for ourselves and check to see if they are true or not, according to our experiences and according to the experiences of others. So we should investigate. And also the Dalai Lama talks about this a lot. He encourages people to have doubts, to question, and investigate their doubts and not just have blind faith. I think Tibetans usually have just blind faith. We just have this incredible devotion, whatever the Buddha said is true, whatever the Dalai Lama says is true, whatever the Lama says is true. And they don't usually think for themselves. So the Dalai Lama says, no, that's not right. You need to think, you need to investigate, you need to check. So give yourself time and do try to think about, investigate, read more, ask questions, and so on to try to clear up whatever doubts you have. But since we're talking in this course about Tantra, and if someone is interested in practicing Tantra, we have the wish to practice Tantra. But if this person doesn't see samsara as painful and unsatisfactory and like a prison, and then with that state of mind, they do tantric practice, then probably the tantric practice is not done for the right reason. You don't have the right understanding and you're not doing it for the right reason. And it can even become a way to seek more samsaric pleasure. And unfortunately, this is the idea that many people have about Tantra. Yesterday, just out of curiosity, I went to Google and I typed in Tantra. And what came up were a lot of websites advertising how you can have tantric sex, how you can have more pleasure in your sexual relations. So that's the idea that many people have about Tantra. It's just about sex. It's just about, ways to enjoy your sex life, have more pleasure. So this is not Tantra in Buddhism. So anybody who has that idea, maybe you're in the wrong place. Yeah. Anyway, we're trying to clear up this misconception, this misinformation. And so, in the context of Buddhism, if you're using tantric practices just to have more pleasure in this very life, in a way, that's like taking something which is medicine and using it as poison, turning medicine into poison. Because tantric practices is actually meant to free us from suffering, free us from samsara, and help us reach enlightenment, Buddhahood. So we can help all other sentient beings be free of samsara as well. So that's the purpose of Tantra in Buddhism. But if you don't understand that and you think it's just something to have more pleasure in this lifetime, then this is really misusing it. It's really corrupting it. But please don't think I'm saying there's something wrong with pleasure, with happiness, with nice experiences. It's not. There's nothing wrong with experiencing pleasure, nothing wrong with happiness, nothing wrong with pleasant experiences. But the problem is if we have attachment, we have strong attachment and clinging to pleasure. If we grasp at pleasure and nice experiences and think that, oh, this is so wonderful, this is perfect, this is all I need, this is all I want, and then we grasp more and more and more and more. And in fact, what happens when we do that is we never get satisfied. We never find satisfaction. Actually, the Buddha said that if we follow desire, we follow grasping, attachment, desire, then it's like drinking salt water. When you're thirsty and you drink salt water, does that quench your thirst? Does that make your thirst go away? No, I wouldn't try it. I don't recommend trying it, but it'll just make you more thirsty. Yeah, your thirst doesn't get quenched. It just increases, and then you want to drink more and more and more and more. You might even drink yourself to death, but never get your thirst quenched. So the Buddha said desire is like that. If we just have ordinary desire, ordinary attachment for pleasant experiences, then and we follow that, and we just try to get satisfaction in that way, we won't get satisfaction. We just get more and more unsatisfied, more and more thirsty. So the problem isn't pleasure, happiness itself, it's the attachment, the grasping that we have. So if we can experience pleasure and happiness and not have attachment to it, that's fine. But that's not so easy to do because of our habitual tendency to grasp, to have attachment. It's very, very difficult. But also, Buddhism talks about different forms of happiness, different forms of pleasure. So I read this in one book by a German nun and teacher named Aya Kemma. And she explained, according to Buddha, 4 different kinds of happiness, 4 different kinds of pleasure. The first one is sensory pleasure. So that's what we experience with our 5 senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and then physical, tactile sensations. So when we see something beautiful, we hear a beautiful sound, we smell a nice odor, we taste something delicious, we feel nice sensations in our body, lying in the sun, swimming in the ocean, having sex. Um, so those kinds of experiences, those kinds of pleasant experiences, it is pleasure. It is nice, but they don't last very long. They last just a short period of time, maybe a few seconds, a few minutes, maybe a few hours, but eventually they die. They stop. They disappear. They're not there anymore. Another problem with those is we usually need some external object or situation to be able to have those pleasures. And if we can't get that external object or situation, then we can be very unhappy, even angry. If we can't see the beautiful things and hear the beautiful sounds that we want, then we can be quite upset, quite unhappy, because we can't get that pleasure that we want. Another thing is if we have attachment for certain types of pleasant objects, pleasant experiences, then that naturally leads to the opposite state of mind, aversion, unhappiness, even anger, when we encounter the opposite kind of experience. When we see things that are ugly, or we hear sounds that we don't like, or we smell odors that we don't like, or we taste tastes that aren't pleasant, or we have unpleasant feelings in our body. So, whenever we have unpleasant experiences with our five senses, because we have attachment to pleasant things, then we have aversion, unhappiness when it comes to the unpleasant things. So, our mind is constantly up and down, from feeling good to feeling lousy, feeling terrible. So these are faults of the sensory experiences, pleasant sensory experiences. But that's only one type of happiness. And that's actually the lowest level of happiness. The second one is the happiness that comes from positive states of mind, such as love, compassion, kindness, generosity, um, just thinking in a positive way, feeling in a positive way. And this is something we all experience when, for example, when we're with people we love and care about, like children. If you're a parent and you have children, when you're with your children, you have these beautiful feelings in your heart for your children. And even if you're not a parent, you feel that way towards other family members, like your brothers and sisters, your pets. Many people have pets, pet dogs, pet cats, birds, and they love their pet so much. So when they're with their pet, they have these beautiful feelings of love and care and compassion and kindness. So that is another kind of happiness that is kind of more pure, more spiritual than the first kind. The first kind tends to be a bit selfish, a bit self-centered, like, oh, I want to enjoy this delicious food. It's so good. It makes me feel so good. So we can be kind of self-centered, ego-centered with that kind of happiness. Whereas the second kind of happiness is more altruistic, more concerned for others. So we're not so focused on me, and my pleasure, but more focused on others and their happiness and wanting to do what will bring them happiness. So it's more meaningful and satisfying and pure than the first kind of happiness, sense pleasures. So that's something you can check for yourself and see if that's true. And then there's a third kind of happiness, and this is usually called bliss in Buddhism. This comes from meditation. If you train your mind in meditation and you learn to have very good concentration, so the more you can concentrate for longer periods of time, eventually you feel more and more blissful. So you've probably heard about what's called calm abiding or shamatha. This is a state of very, very strong and deep concentration on an object that you choose, a virtuous object. And you can stay concentrated for a long period of time. You don't feel tired or bored, hungry, thirsty. You're just blissful in your body and mind. Incredible bliss. I haven't experienced it, but people who have say it's the best experience you've ever had. Better than sex, better than drugs, better than anything that we normally have. It's just so blissful and so satisfying, and you're happy to just keep sitting there meditating for long periods of time. So that's a higher form of happiness, a better form of happiness than what we normally experience. But we have to work. It's not easy. We have to really put time into practicing meditation and train our concentration more and more. But it's possible. People do it. Then there's a fourth kind of happiness, which is the best of all. And that's the happiness that comes from wisdom. The wisdom that understands reality, the true nature of things, what we call emptiness in our tradition. So when you, again, it takes time. You have to learn and meditate and, practice. And eventually you gain this wisdom that sees the true nature of yourself, the true nature of others, the true nature of everything in the world around you. That wisdom is said to bring the highest form of happiness. And I think the reason for that is that wisdom is the antidote to all of our afflictive emotions. That's the kind of weapon or remedy that will eliminate, clear away all our disturbing emotions like anger and attachment and jealousy and pride and depression and fear, anxiety. So all these kind of disturbing thoughts and emotions that normally run around in our mind and make us disturbed and unhappy. So wisdom clears those away. It's the antidote, the medicine to those. So once those are gone from our mind, then the mind is able to experience incredible happiness and peace and bliss. So I really like that explanation because it points out that not all happiness is the same. Not all pleasure is the same. There's different kinds, different qualities. And probably for most people in the world, it's the first kind of happiness that they know, that they experience, and they are looking for. They're trying to get more and more of that, sense pleasures. But if we have attachment to sense pleasures and we're constantly running after those and trying to get those and distracted by those, even when we're trying to meditate, it becomes distracting. You think about these pleasant experiences you had in the past, or you fantasize pleasant experiences you want to have in the future. So your mind is just wandering all over the place because of attachment, because of desire. And then you can't meditate properly. And if you can't meditate properly, you won't be able to get the higher forms of happiness. The happiness that comes from loving kindness and compassion and concentration and wisdom. So if you think about that, then it makes sense that attachment, being attached to sense pleasure, is not only is it not satisfying, but it's a hindrance to achieving better forms of happiness, higher forms of happiness. Does that make sense? If these ideas are new to you, then you might not be so sure of what I'm saying, but I'm trying to explain why it is that Buddhism says we should try to overcome our attachment to just ordinary sensory pleasure. It does feel good, no doubt about it. It's very nice, it's very pleasant. But if we get attached to that and we get stuck on that level of happiness, we won't be able to achieve the higher forms of happiness, which is the real purpose of Buddhist practice. And I wanted to share with you this little text. It's a very short text. It has only 4 lines. So this is from the Sakya tradition. It's one of the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism. One Sakya Lama, whose name was Sachen Kunga Nyingpo, he lived in the past, but I don't know exactly when, what his years, what his the time when he lived. And apparently it was given to him by Manjushri. Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom. So some of the lamas would have visions of Buddhas like Manjushri and would sometimes get teachings from them. So this was given by Manjushri to this Sakya Lama, and it's called Parting from the Four Clingings. Clinging is another word for attachment. We have many different words: clinging, craving, grasping. So they're all kind of different variations of attachment, of desire. So this little text is very short. It only has 4 lines. But it's actually the same as what we were talking about yesterday, the 3 principal aspects of the path. So it's the same kind of teaching, but in a little bit different words. So the first line says, if you cling to this life, you are not a true spiritual practitioner. So clinging to this life means being attached to the 8 worldly concerns, being stuck in the 8 worldly concerns, living your life thinking that the whole purpose of life is just to acquire as much money, possessions, things, pleasure, fame, praise, reputation. So that's all you're concerned about this lifetime and getting all the good things that you can in just this lifetime, and not thinking about anything beyond that. So you have like this very narrow, very limited view of the purpose of life. Just enjoying life as much as you can, trying to get the good things and trying to avoid the bad things like loss and unpleasant experiences and being criticized and having a bad reputation. Okay, so someone who's just totally consumed with the 8 worldly concerns, and that's all they care about, that's all they're looking for. That's the meaning of clinging to this life. So somebody who's like that is not a true spiritual practitioner, not a Dharma practitioner. Again, that doesn't mean we can't have pleasure and happiness in this life. That's fine. And it doesn't mean we can't take care of problems. Like if we get sick, of course, we go to the doctor and we try to take medicine and so on. So it's fine to try to be comfortable and happy and healthy in this life and avoid bad experiences. But if that's all you're concerned about, your view, your vision is only that, that is the meaning of clinging to this life. So in Buddhism, we aspire for more, for bigger things beyond just this life. The next line says, if you cling to samsara, you do not have renunciation. So a person might think, okay, just this life isn't that important because one day I'm going to die and then I will take rebirth. And I want to make sure that I don't get reborn in some bad situation. I want to make sure I have a good rebirth in a good situation with good experiences, not suffering. And so they engage in Dharma practice, spiritual practice, in order to have a good rebirth in the next lifetime. So that's considered Dharma practice. That is a valid way of practicing Dharma. But they may still be clinging to samsara because their goal is just having good rebirths as a god in heaven or coming back as a human being. but with a comfortable life, with a pleasant life. So their view is still very narrow. They're still just thinking about samsara and having pleasant experiences in samsara and not going beyond samsara. So somebody like that doesn't have renunciation. Okay, so we need to open up our mind more and realize that anywhere we are born in samsara is a place of suffering, a place of dissatisfaction, and aspire to get beyond samsara, free of samsara. And the third line says, if you cling to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. So we're going to start talking about bodhicitta this morning. Bodhicitta is aspiring to help all sentient beings. So you see all sentient beings are suffering, and you want them to be free of suffering, you want them to be happy, and you want to take care of them yourself. You feel this responsibility, this commitment to help all sentient beings. Just like a mother or a father who really cares about their children, and they're completely dedicated to taking care of their children and not thinking so much about themselves. Me, what I want, what I need. So they put their children first. So bodhisattva is like that. Someone who has bodhicitta that isn't thinking about themselves. They're not self-centered, selfish, but they're thinking about others, and they want to help others, and they're completely dedicated to taking care of others. So that's the meaning of bodhicitta. So if you're clinging to self-interest, I, me, what's good for me, what I want, then that prevents you from having bodhicitta and following the bodhisattva's path. And the last line says, if there is grasping, you do not have the view. So grasping here refers to what's sometimes called self-grasping, grasping at inherent existence or independent existence. This means grasping at yourself, others, everything as existing in a certain way, existing inherently, independently from its own side, grasping at that. This is opposite to the view of emptiness. So the view here means the view of emptiness, the correct view, the way things really exist. Then we'll get to that later today. So these 4 lines are equivalent to the 3 principal aspects of the path. The first 2 lines are equivalent to renunciation, the determination to be free. First is renunciation of this life. The second is renunciation of samsara. And then the third line is equivalent to the second principal aspect of the path, which is bodhicitta, which we'll start looking at soon. And then the fourth line is equivalent to the third principal aspect of the path, which is the wisdom, understanding, emptiness, the true nature of things. Anyway, I just think this little text is very nice. It's a good, nice and short. You can easily memorize it. Read it every day and remind yourself of the most important aspects of our Dharma path, our Dharma practice. Okay, so let's go on and start looking at bodhicitta, the second of the 3 principal aspects of the path that we really need to have at least an understanding of and try to cultivate if we want to practice Tantra. So it's an essential part of tantric practice. It needs to be our motivation for practicing Tantra. So I talked about that yesterday when I said that Tantra is a branch of Mahayana, meaning it's a kind of Mahayana practice. And the goal of Mahayana practice is Buddhahood, becoming a Buddha, becoming fully enlightened. Why? Why do we want to become a Buddha? It's not because we want to be this great being who's just so wonderful and has all this knowledge and qualities and experiences and is way up there above everybody else. And then we can kind of look down on everybody and think, wow, I'm so great. I'm so wonderful. So that's not the purpose for becoming a Buddha. The whole purpose for becoming a Buddha is to help others. The real goal of the Mahayana path is helping all sentient beings, because you see that they suffer, they have suffering, and you feel so much compassion for them. You want them to be free of suffering. You just find their suffering is unbearable. You can't stand it that they are suffering, and you just want to free them from suffering. And you also have love, loving kindness, which means you want them to be happy. You realize they want to be happy, they want happiness, but they lack happiness. They don't have the happiness that they wish for. And you really want them to be happy. And so you're so moved by the suffering of others. You want them to be free of suffering, and you want them to have happiness, that you make this dedication, this commitment to doing whatever you can in order to help them. And the way to help them is to become a Buddha, to become fully enlightened, just like the Buddha did. So that's the meaning of what we call bodhichitta, the mind of enlightenment. And bodhicitta is probably something that doesn't just arise naturally and spontaneously in people's minds unless they meditated on it in past lives. So some people may have been learning about and meditating on bodhicitta in past lives. So for them, this thought, this attitude may arise just naturally and spontaneously in them. But for most of us, it probably doesn't arise naturally and spontaneously. But we can develop it. We can cultivate it. We can bring bodhicitta into our mind. So it's possible for everyone to do that. And there's lots of benefits, both for ourselves and others. If we cultivate bodhicitta and we follow the bodhisattva's path. I remember one time Lama Zopa Rinpoche was at Usaling. I don't know what year that was, maybe 2005, 2006, something like that. He was giving teachings at Usaling. At one point, he's talked about how, if we try to generate bodhicitta and we do things with the bodhicitta motivation, our meditation practices, our prayers, our recitations of mantras, even eating and sleeping, you can do those with the motivation of bodhicitta. You can think, I'm eating this food or I'm drinking this cup of tea in order to give myself energy so that I can continue practicing Dharma and work for enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we can have the bodhicitta motivation for everything we do, even going to the beach, even sleeping, taking a siesta. You can think, I am doing this in order to rest myself, relax myself, so I have more energy that I can use to help sentient beings, to reach enlightenment, to help all sentient beings. So everything we do can be done with a bodhicitta motivation. And he said, so if we do things with that motivation, the bodhicitta motivation, then those activities, those actions, not only do they become the cause for enlightenment, for Buddhahood, and then being able to help all sentient beings, but they also become the cause for all the good things on the way to enlightenment. So all the other good results, such as happiness in future lives, being born in a good situation, and having good experiences in our next life and in all our future lives, rather than being born in a terrible situation with a lot of suffering. So bodhicitta motivation is the cause for good rebirths in our future lives. It's also the cause for all the realizations of the path. such as calm abiding, shamatha, such as the wisdom realizing emptiness. So there's many different realizations, many different stages that you go through on the way to enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't something that just happens all at once like that. One moment you're an ordinary being and the next moment you're a Buddha. It's not like that, but you go through many, many different stages. And these are different realizations, different attainments that you achieve, which are wonderful. They make you feel so good, so blissful, so satisfied. So we get all of those experiences, those wonderful experiences on the way to enlightenment. So basically what he was saying is that even though our real goal is helping sentient beings, but we get the best benefit, the greatest benefit by generating bodhicitta and doing things with the bodhicitta motivation. All the happiness, all the good experiences will fall in our lap, will just come naturally and spontaneously if we try. Even if we're not a bodhisattva yet, we're just trying to generate bodhicitta and do things with the bodhicitta motivation. But still, that does become the cause for all these wonderful experiences. So, in other words, bodhicitta is a good thing to do for ourselves. It's the best thing we can do for ourselves. It's also the best thing we can do for others. So, why not? Why not try to do it? And even in this lifetime, so not just talking about the future lives and so on, but even in this lifetime, if we try to cultivate bodhicitta, doing that means we become a more kind and compassionate person. We're caring more about others. We're doing things for others. So we'll experience benefit even here and now, because other people will like us. We all want to be liked by others and cared for by others. We want people to be nice to us. So if we become a nicer person, more caring, more compassionate, more generous, more kind, this is how we will be to other people. People will like us. People will be drawn to us, attracted to us, want to be around us, want to be friends with us. So we'll find we have lots of friends, lots of people who care about us. You can see that with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is so popular. Wherever he goes, hundreds, thousands of people, they want to come and be near him. And they show so much joy, so much love. Everyone's trying to reach out and, get close to him. So why is that? It's not like, he's not like a football star or a movie star. He's a Buddhist monk. He's celibate. He doesn't drink alcohol or take drugs. Doesn't make movies, doesn't play football. It's because he's kind and compassionate. People feel it just by looking at his face, just by being around him, hearing his talk, his laugh, his joy. So that's a good example of how if we can also cultivate love and compassion and altruism and be more caring about others, we ourselves will benefit. People will like us. Our own mind will be more peaceful, more happy, and we'll sleep better at night. And also our health will be better. I've heard this, that having more love and more compassion, more positive thoughts and feelings in your mind is good for your health. It's like helps your immune system to fight off disease, like coronavirus. And even if you do get sick, or if you do have some kind of, physical problem, maybe you have to go for surgery and so on, you'll recover faster. I've experienced this myself. I've had a few surgeries, and I was able to recover much more quickly than normal. So our health will be better, physically will be better, our mind will be better, our relationships will be better. So even in this lifetime, we'll experience a lot of benefits from trying to cultivate bodhicitta. So, um, so it's important to understand that in order to have the desire, the energy, the enthusiasm to try to cultivate bodhicitta and try to do things with the bodhicitta motivation. And this is a big theme in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teachings. He's always talking about bodhicitta, always encouraging people to have compassion and love and bodhicitta and do things with that motivation. So if you ever listen to his teachings or read any of his books, then this comes across very clearly, very strongly. There are two main methods for developing bodhicitta in the Tibetan tradition, or at least in the Gelugpa tradition. One of these is called the 7-point cause and effect method for developing bodhicitta. And the other is called the method of exchanging self and others, equalizing and exchanging self and others. That one has 5 points, 5 steps that you meditate on. And the first of those 5 points is called equalizing self and others. That involves meditating on the fact that you and others, all people and all beings, are equal in wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer. So it's kind of a simple idea, not very complicated, but it may be something we don't normally think about. But if we do, if we contemplate it, then it's like a step. It's not fully bodhicitta itself, but it's a step towards cultivating bodhicitta. So I thought, let's do a little bit of meditation on that. It helps us to open our mind, open our heart more to others, and helps us to be less self-centered, focused only on me and my happiness, which is one of the main obstacles to developing bodhicitta and following the bodhisattva's path. Sense of I am more important than everybody else. So make yourselves comfortable and try to sit with a straight back, but that doesn't mean having tense shoulders. So let your shoulders relax. And check your mind. See if your mind is here, focused on the meditation that we're doing, or if it's somewhere else, thinking about other things. So if there are other thoughts in your mind, put them aside, let them go, and just let your mind be right here, right now, focused on the meditation. So go into your own mind, your own heart, and see if you can recognize your own wish for happiness and wish to not suffer. So it's like a little voice deep down inside of us that says, I just want to be happy and I don't want to suffer. I don't want to be unhappy. And please do not feel there's anything wrong with such a thought. Don't feel guilty for having such a thought. According to Buddhism, we should be happy. We deserve to be happy. We shouldn't have to suffer. Nobody should have to suffer. So it's completely normal to want happiness, not suffering. And it's okay. It's acceptable. It's perfectly fine to have that wish. So allow yourself to feel that way. Accept that feeling, that wish for happiness and not suffering. And you can even go one step further and say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be free of suffering. Now bring to mind someone you know and care about. Could be someone in your family or a friend, a child if you're a parent, one of your children, or a pet. Someone you find easy to care about. Try to have a mental picture of that person as if they are right in front of you. And then focusing on that person, think about how they too, inside their heart, have the wish to be happy and to not suffer. They feel just the same as you. They want to be happy, they don't want to suffer. And see if you can go one step further and wish the person to be happy. You can even say that to yourself. May you be happy. May you be free of suffering. Now bring to mind another person. This time, someone you're not so close to. Someone you know, but you're not very close to them. You don't have a strong connection with them, a strong relationship with them. So this could be a more distant family member or neighbor, someone at work, even one of the other people joining this course. Bring that person to mind. Imagine them in front of you. And think that this person is just like you, just like the last person you thought of. Deep in their mind and their heart is the wish to be happy, the wish to not suffer. And then go one step further and say to yourself, may you be happy. Or how wonderful it would be if you could be happy and if you could be free of suffering. Now bring to mind the person you don't like. Better not to think of your worst enemy. That would be too difficult. Just think about someone you find a little bit annoying, irritating, difficult to like. It could be someone you actually know, or it could be someone like a public figure, like a politician or a celebrity that you don't like. And imagine that person in front of you. And first contemplate that this person is another human being, just like you, just like the last two people you thought about. In their mind and their heart is the wish to be happy, the wish to not suffer, just like you. And then see if you can take the next step and wish the person to be happy and free of suffering. So you can try saying words to yourself like, may you be happy, or how nice it would be if you could be happy and if you could be free of suffering. And now see if you can open up your heart, your mind to all living beings, all people, all beings everywhere. We are all the same in that we're just trying to find happiness, trying to fulfill our needs, our wishes, and trying to avoid suffering and problems, pain, difficulties. And then see if you can wish that to come about, even to just say to yourself the words, may all beings be happy and free of suffering. Or how nice it would be if everyone could be happy and free of suffering. Something that is easy for you, comfortable for you. Okay, so you can now open your eyes, come out of the meditation. So this contemplation is very, very helpful, very effective to open up our mind and our heart to other people and other beings and start going in the direction of bodhichitta, the altruistic intention. It's also something you can use when you're out in the world, if that is even the case nowadays. Most people are staying at home, not going out much. But if you do go out, or if you are at home, maybe you're watching television and seeing people on TV. So whenever you observe or have contact with other people and other beings, this is something you can remind yourself of, that this is another person, or these are other people, other human beings who are basically like me. They're just trying to be happy, trying to find happiness, and they're trying to avoid suffering and problems. So it really helps open your heart to others, feel more connected with others. And then that in turn enables us to have more compassion and more love, more empathy, more care. And it's such a beautiful state of mind to have. And it's also really helpful to break down barriers. I'm in America right now, and as you probably are aware, there's a huge problem in this country with racism. And it's not only here, it's in many places, many parts of the world. People of one race, one group of people, feeling we are superior, and then looking down on another race, another group of people, us and them. There's this attitude of us and them. And I mean, it's true that we are different. There are differences between people. We're not denying that. But are those differences important? The color of your skin, the way you dress, the kind of food you eat, the language you speak, your religion, your political parties, are those really so important? Are those really a basis for feeling hostile and mistrustful and angry, and all these kind of negative feelings that come up in people, and that can lead to negative behavior that's uncompassionate and even harmful to others? So I think these kind of feelings like racism and hostility and so on are based on putting too much emphasis on the differences between us and others. And if we put more emphasis on the similarities, the way in which we are the same, we're all human beings. We have the same kind of body, skin, blood, bones. When we have pain or we are sick, we don't like it. We want to be free of our pain, free of our sickness. When we are separated from our loved ones, we don't have food to eat, we don't have shelter, a home to live in, we're unhappy. We don't like that. So we're all basically the same. We're just trying to find happiness, trying to fulfill our needs, and trying to avoid suffering and problems. And we all deserve that. We all have the right to have happiness, and nobody should have to suffer. So that's the Buddhist view. And if we make ourselves more familiar with that way of thinking, it helps so much to break down the barriers and be free of these kind of problems of racism or classism or sexism or all these isms that cause people to be hostile to other people and mistreat other people and not be kind to other people. So it's a very, very helpful method to feel closer and have more altruism in the way we see others. Okay, so if you want to know more about bodhicitta, there's plenty of materials, plenty of books that explain all the different ways of developing bodhicitta. So I really encourage you to look into that and learn more about that and meditate on those methods. They really, really help. They're really beautiful. Now I'd like to move on to the third of the three principal aspects of the path, which is called the correct view of emptiness. And this is probably one of the most difficult topics in the whole of Buddhism. But it's also very interesting, very fascinating. I know some people say this is the thing that attracted them to Buddhism. When they heard about emptiness, they thought, what's that all about? I want to know more about that. And they were just so interested because it's something we don't find in other religions, other spiritual traditions. So the idea here with emptiness, the view of emptiness, is we've been talking about samsara and all the suffering, all the problems of samsara. So why are we in samsara? What is it that keeps us in samsara? I mentioned before, karma and afflictions are the main causes of samsara that keep us dying and taking rebirth again and again and going through all these problems. And of those two, karma and afflictions, the main one is afflictions or delusions, these mistaken states of mind. And there's many of those, like anger, attachment, and so on. But the main one, the main affliction is ignorance. Sometimes it's called confusion. This is a state of mind where we don't see things as they are. Our way of seeing things is mistaken. And that includes our own self, I. We all have a sense of I. And most people just go along with their ideas about I, what it is, how it exists, and they never question that. Most people never question, do I exist the way that I think or not? Do I know myself or not? Am I wrong about who I think I am, what I think I am? Probably most people never question that. But the Buddha did. The Buddha asked those questions and looked into that. And what he discovered was that in his own mind, he had a mistaken idea about his own self, his own existence, this sense of I. And he realized that that is the root of all our suffering, root of all our problems. Thinking that we exist in a way other than we actually do. He was able to be free of that. He was able to clear up that mistake in his own mind by realizing the real nature of himself and also the real nature of everyone else and everything else. So he cleared that up in his own mind. He freed his own mind from ignorance, this mistaken view of things, and realized that that is the way to be really free of suffering. And then he explained, he taught his disciples, his followers, this teaching, how to see things in the correct way. So we have this mistake with regard to everyone and everything. All the people around us, all the things around us, all the situations, all the experiences we have. So we see all of these things in a mistaken way. But it said that the main problem is the way we see ourselves, the way we see I. So we should start our investigation there. It's recommended that we start by investigating our own sense of self, our own sense of I. And the question to ask isn't so much who am I, but rather what am I? What is this thing we call I? What is this thing we feel inside of us? There's an I in here. What is that? What kind of phenomena is it? Does it really exist the way that I think or not? So in my book, How to Meditate, which is called in Spanish, I think, Aprendiendo de los Lamas, that book. And so there's a bunch of different meditations in that book. And one of them is a meditation on emptiness. which was taught by Lama Zopa Rinpoche long, long ago. And I don't know if you've ever tried doing that meditation, but it's very interesting. So you're asked to just sit down and spend some time watching your breath, letting your mind quiet down, become calm, and then trying to investigate the sense of I. Okay, we do feel somewhere inside of me, there's this thing we call I. But what is this I? What exactly is it? And how does it exist? Is it something real, existing from its own side, something we can actually point to and say, that's it. There it is, right there. So this is difficult to do. I mean, it's not easy to do this. When we try to do it, it becomes kind of slippery, like trying to catch an eel in the water. It's very slippery and it keeps slipping away from us. So it's not easy to do, but it's also very interesting just trying to do it. So he says it's good to first just think about our body and how our body, this thing we call my body, how it's made up of many, many different parts. The body isn't just one whole thing, but it has different parts: head and arms and legs, and then torso, and then inside many bones, many organs, brain, heart, stomach, kidneys, and so on. So we think about all these different parts of our body and ask ourselves, is any of those the I? Any part of my body? Can I point to that and say, that's I, that's me, right there? Now, some people, when they do that, they might think about their brain and think, that's me, my brain. This is actually, I once saw an article in National Geographic magazine, and it was about the brain, and they had photographs of a person who was going through brain surgery. So they opened the top of her head, and there were photographs of what her brain looked like, and in the article, they were saying that is her. The brain is her, is the person who's having the surgery done. And so that's probably what a lot of people think, that this thing inside of our head is me, is who I am. And that's because of all the research that shows that, our thoughts and our feelings, our mental activity, and our sense of self and all is somehow related to our brain. But is that really how we see ourselves? Do we really think of ourselves as a brain? I mean, most people never even see their brain. We don't see our brain. Nobody sees our brain. It's inside of our head. But when we think we have a sense of I, do we really think of ourselves as this? It's not a very beautiful thing, I think. If we saw a brain, we probably wouldn't feel, oh, isn't that beautiful? It's kind of squishy, and I don't know, all these funny different textures to it. So if you ask yourself, do you really think you're your brain? And other people, like the people you love, the people you know, the people you love, do you really think they are their brain? If that was true, then when we feel love for somebody and we say to that person, I love you, what we're actually saying is, my brain loves your brain. My brain loves your brain. Does that sound right? That really match your feelings, your experiences? Do you really feel you are your brain? And when you love another person, your brain is loving their brain. I mean, that's what it would be. That's how it would be if we were our brain. But we probably don't really feel that way when we think about it. And some people may identify more with their heart, you know. But again, if you think about the heart, what the heart looks like, is that really how you see yourself? Do you really see yourself as that organ inside your chest? I think it's a bit more on the left side. But again, we don't even see our heart. When we look in the mirror, we look in the mirror and we have a sense of, that's me. I look good today, or I don't look good today. I look terrible today. So when we look in the mirror and we have those kind of thoughts, I look good or I don't look good, are we seeing our brain in the mirror? Or are we seeing our heart in the mirror and saying, that looks good today, or that doesn't look good today? So it's good to question whatever you might think is your I, whether you think it's your brain or your heart or maybe your stomach. It's good to question that. Is that really me? Is that really who I am? Does that really correspond with my sense of I? So you probably won't find an answer to that. You might end up just feeling confused, but that's okay. It's better to be confused, to be uncertain, than to have a sense of, there really is a solid, real I. I know who I am. I know how I exist. I am like this, and I can tell you what to do. And I can get angry at you because you're not doing what I want you to do. Because see, this is the problem. When we have a very solid sense of an I that is beyond question, beyond doubt, I really exist, and this is what I think, and this is what I feel, that sense of I leads to all kinds of afflictive emotions, like anger, getting angry at people who we don't like, who do what we think is wrong, who don't do what we think they should do. And so then we think, I have a right to be angry at that person. And some people even go further than that and think, I have a right to kill that person or harm that person or do nasty things to that person. So the solid sense of I gives rise to feelings of anger, aversion, hostility, and even harmful, hurtful behavior. It also gives rise to attachment, to desire. Because when we meet a person that we find attractive, and that person looks like they think we are attractive, they seem to be attracted to us, the way they look at us, the way they smile at us, the way they talk to us, makes us feel so good. I feel so wonderful. Oh, yes, this person loves me. This person cares about me. This person sees how wonderful I am. I want to keep this person close to me as much as possible and keep having those nice feelings. So that's attachment. That's desire. It's very self-centered. I want to keep you around because you make me feel so good. I want to keep having those good feelings. So you have to stay there and keep making me feel good. Our feelings towards other people are usually a mixture of love and attachment. Some of it is love. Some of it is genuine care about the other person. But if we are honest with ourselves, we really watch our mind, we'll probably see that some of it is about me. You make me feel good. So I want you to be there. I want to be nice to you, treat you well, so you stay close to me and you keep giving me those good feelings. And the same thing with objects, material things, money, possessions, food, clothes, house. So all these things we collect in our life are the things that make us feel good, make us feel comfortable, give pleasant feelings to me, this real solid I existing inside of us. So if we watch our mind, pay attention to what's going on in our mind, we'll see that a sense of I is a big part of our life, a big part of our existence, a big part of our way of relating to other people and things and events. We're always coming from this point of view. I am the center of the universe. Everything revolves around me. I am the most important person of all. I am the king or the queen, the ruler. But do we ever ask ourselves, what is this I anyway? What exactly is it? Does it exist the way that I think? So, like I say, this is a very difficult topic. And realistically, it's something that can take years or even your whole life to study what the Buddha taught about it and understand what he's talking about, and then be able to think about it and meditate on it. And eventually, the point is to get the realization that the I that we normally think is there isn't there. The I doesn't exist the way we normally think. That I is empty. That's the meaning of emptiness. That's why we use the word emptiness. The I we usually think is there, a real, solid, independently existing I. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. It's like a phantom, like a dream, like a hallucination. It seems to be there, but when we look for it, it cannot be found. We cannot find it. So that's the meaning of emptiness. It's the absence of this real, solid I that normally appears. But then that doesn't mean we don't exist at all. Some people make that mistake and they think that emptiness means nothingness, non existence. There is no I at all. I don't exist at all. You don't exist. The world doesn't exist. Nothing exists. That is not the meaning of emptiness. So please don't go there. That's a mistaken idea. But some people do fall into that. They do go down that road. Sometimes they can end up mentally ill. They end up in a mental hospital. So be careful. Don't go down that road. Buddhism isn't saying nothing exists. It's just saying we don't exist the way we think we do. The way we normally think about I and everyone, everything, that is wrong. That is mistaken. We need to sort of peel that away, clear that away, and then we can see things as they do exist, the correct view of things. And the correct view of things, I mean, we have to come to this on our own. We have to realize this on our own. But you've probably heard the term dependent arising or dependent origination, which simply means everything exists dependently. Everything is dependent on other things for its existence. And that's how things do exist. That's how the I exists. How do I exist? I exist dependently. The I in Madhyamika philosophy, which is considered the highest form of philosophy in Buddhism, it said that the I that does exist is the merely labeled I, the I that is merely labeled. What does that mean? It means that my body exists. There is a body here. It's made of flesh and blood and bones and skin and cells and molecules, atoms. So this does exist. There's also a mind, all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, and so on. Those do exist. So there's actually many different parts to me, to any of us, many different components. Some of them are physical, some of them are mental, and they're changing all the time. The body's changing all the time. Our mind is changing all the time. It's like sands in the desert, sand dunes being blown by the wind and always changing shape. So there's this mass of physical and mental components that make up the basis of who I am. And then on top of that, in relation to that, I say I. And we all have names, sometimes several names. I have Sange Kadro is my nun name. Kathleen McDonald is the name from my parents, from my family, my legal name. So everybody has at least one name. And we also use this pronoun, I, when we talk about ourselves. So these are just words, just terms, names that we give to this collection of physical and mental components that are constantly changing, never the same from one moment to the next. So that's what does exist. That's the I that does exist. Not something fixed, solid, permanent, independent, existing on its own, which is how it feels. We feel as if there's an I somewhere inside that exists in that way. Independent, existing all by itself. And the one who's in charge of everything. The one who tells other people what to do, likes this, doesn't like that, has all these opinions, loves to talk, blah, 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 blah. So that I, that I that seems to be the boss, yeah, the boss, the CEO, the one in charge. That one, that doesn't exist. That's like false idea. So that's just a little bit of an explanation about this point of emptiness. Like I say, it's difficult. It takes time to understand, but it's very, very important. And if you want to practice Tantra, it's absolutely essential to have some understanding of emptiness. This will become more clear when we get into what's involved in Tantric practice. Because when we practice Tantra, we have to be able to let go of our usual sense of I, our ordinary sense of I, related to this body-mind combination. Because in Tantra practice, when you're doing it fully, you take on a divine identity. You identify yourself with a deity, a Buddha figure like Tara or Chenrezig or Manjushri or there's many, many different deities. These are all Buddha figures. So you're transforming yourself into that deity. You're becoming that deity, but you have to first completely let go of your ordinary sense of self or I. Actually, I used the wrong term. When I said you're transforming yourself into the deity, it's not like that. You have to first empty yourself, your ordinary sense of self, related to this body-mind combination. So you have to completely let go of that, empty that, completely empty that. And then it's your wisdom, the wisdom understanding emptiness, and motivated by bodhichitta, the wish to help all sentient beings, that is what arises in the form of the deity. And then you identify with that. So it's not easy to do. And like you say, we have to have a good understanding of emptiness, and we have to have at least some certainty about bodhicitta, that this is why we are doing it. Otherwise, it just becomes ego enhancing. One time I was in a Dharma center, and there was one man. He was a person who'd been coming to the center for quite a while, and somebody asked him to sweep the floor. Like we were going to have a teaching, and the floor needed to be swept, and so they asked this man if he could please sweep the floor. And he got very upset. And he said, I am Buddha. How can you ask me to sweep the floor? So this is what can happen, if we don't have a good sense of emptiness, the emptiness of our usual sense of I, and then we start doing tantric practice. It may be just a big sense of I who becomes the Buddha. And then that's again a corruption of the real meaning of Tantra. And it's just increasing our ignorance, increasing our self-centeredness, our ego, rather than overcoming it. So that's just a brief introduction. I'm sure many of you have heard teachings on this before. The next section is going into Tantra itself and how it is different from Paramitayana. I'll just say a few words about that now, and then we'll have a break. So remember yesterday I said that Mahayana is the path to Buddhahood, the Bodhisattva's path, for those who feel this strong love and compassion for all living beings and want to help all living beings, and realize that the best way to help sentient beings is to become a Buddha, to become fully enlightened. The Mahayana is for those who want to become enlightened. And then within Mahayana, there are two divisions or two branches, the Paramitayana, also called Sutrayana, and then the Vajrayana or Tantra. So how are they different? What's the difference between them? I'll wait until we start the next session. It's complicated. But how they are not different. Okay, we'll look at the ways in which they are the same. They are the same in that they are both paths to Buddhahood. Whether you're following Paramitayana or you're following Vajrayana, your goal is to become a Buddha. Why you want to become a Buddha is because you want to help all sentient beings. Your wish is to free all sentient beings from their suffering and help them all find happiness. So that's very important to understand that that's the purpose of practicing Tantra, Vajrayana. It's to benefit all sentient beings. Also, the 6 perfections, which are the main practices of a bodhisattva, the 6 perfections are giving or generosity, ethics, behaving yourself properly, patience, learning to be patient, not so angry, joyous effort. Joyous effort is being happy to do what's virtuous, being happy to do good things, not getting bored and tired of doing good things, but wanting to do more and more and more good things. Joyous effort. Concentration, learning to train your mind to stay focused on an object of your choice for longer and longer periods of time. And then the 6th perfection is wisdom, wisdom of emptiness, understanding that yourself and everyone else, everything else is empty of the usual way they appear. So those are the things that are in common. So even if you're following Vajrayana or Tantra, you're doing it to become a Buddha, to help all sentient beings, and you have to practice the 6 perfections. You can't skip those. Leave those aside. They have to be practiced as well. So those are the things that are common. And then when we start the next session, which is in an hour, we will look at the differences, how they differ.